some of these revelations, I think, are so fascinating, but I'm kind of surprised that they haven't made their way into the courtroom. Blake, what are your thoughts about this notion? Let's just go to the airplane business, that airplanes were coming in and out of Moselle. And according to Anthony Cook, bringing in drugs and strippers because that's what Paul told him. Why is this not a bigger part of the case?
Yeah, it's really interesting that Anthony Cook brings that up. In Moselle's past, this airstrip has been referenced a couple of times throughout the case in passing. Prosecutors will point it out on a map, an aerial image of Moselle, and we now know how much money that Alex Murdaugh told SLED investigators that he was spending weekly on drugs from apparently his cousin, Curtis Eddie Smith. But we haven't heard about where these drugs were coming in from. Nobody's really speculated about that. The prosecution hasn't focused too much on it, so it very well could be the case that the Moselle Strip was used for that. We know that in the 80s, the Hilton Head Island Packet had reported that the former owners of the property were charged in a drug smuggling operation. Those charges were later dropped when a key witness in that case was hit by a car in Florida and died and could not testify. So that background is there, and we know Alex Murdaugh was spending a lot of money on drugs, so it could have been the case, though we have not heard the prosecution bring it in yet.
Well, maybe we'll hear something in the defense, because it certainly does help the defense case if there's a big drug gang. And I think they, are referring to the South Carolina drug gang called the Walterboro Cowboys. So who knows if that'll start making its way, into the case? Because, like I said, Alec is going to want to point the finger at anybody else but himself. And that certainly does look like it looked to me like a mob hit when you saw these two people killed the way that they were. So let me ask you this, Ted. The notion of Paul loving Gloria as much as he had. A lot of people had suggested that maybe it was Paul that pushed Gloria down the stairs. And here are Paul's friends to say this was like his mother, and he did not take this death well. And there's Alex saying that he was there talking to Gloria, that Gloria was telling him before she got in the ambulance that she had tripped because of the dogs. But the caretaker says he was nowhere to be seen. It was just the caretaker and Paul and Maggie. It's a bit astounding.
Yeah, I think this is yet another part of this case where there's so much that's just clouded in mystery. Starting with Paul, he's someone who I think a lot of people coming into this case really knew about through the boat crash, and they saw his behavior the night of that crash and made a lot of assumptions about who he was. But we've heard testimony from friends and from family who have really emphasized that he was a loyal, loving friend. And I think that's really complicated the image that a lot of people have had of him. And by all accounts, I think he really did love Gloria Satterfield. The original 911 call from the Moselle property came from Paul and his mom reporting that Gloria had fallen and was injured and was in need of medical help. Now, as for Alex, I think perhaps what's more significant here is just how quickly he moved following Gloria Satterfield's death to initiate a lawsuit against himself, against his own insurance, so that he could ultimately pocket that money. Now, he claimed to be initiating this lawsuit essentially to help out Gloria's sons, one of whom, Michael Tony Satterfield, testified. But in reality, that was an opportunity for him to essentially pocket several $1 million. So, I think some of those details on were Alex there, were he not, I think it's a little murky, but I think what's telling is just how quickly he positioned himself to be at fault in order to get access to millions of dollars from that settlement.
I was trying to put all the pieces together until they said, well, Gloria found bags of pills taped to the underside of the bed. And so that all of a sudden opened my eyes. Blake, it's not a huge leap, right? If the housekeeper found bags of pills, reported it to Paul, Paul tells Alex, housekeeper turns up dead. And now, look, it's not the first person in the Murdoch orb that's turned up dead. There's 5. There are 5 people linked to the Murdochs who've turned up dead, starting with Stephen Smith, then Gloria Satterfield, then Mallory Beach, then Maggie, then Paul. And now you hear this story about Gloria Satterfield having found baggies of pills taped to the underside of the bed. I think all of this kind of is looked through a different prism, right? Now that we're in a double murder case.
Yeah, and lead prosecutor Creighton Waters has said that in his own, speaking with the court and arguing for the admission of all this different evidence of the financial crimes, evidence of the roadside shooting. One of the quotes that he gave was that this case is much, much larger. The connections and all the things that this family is tangled up in are greater than anything probably Carleton County courts have experienced in the past, and getting more people involved with knowledge of Alex Murdaugh's admitted drug issue, it's not a huge leap to make. It's another one of those things in this case that is shrouded in mystery. This family obviously it's deep rooted in the county. It has a lot of connections. Everything's wide open for speculation as far as was Alex there, and if so, in what ways might he have been responsible for that, which has been considered an accident.
Okay, so I want to ask Ted, the next issue that I thought was sort of fascinating was the blue towel. Maybe I missed it, but I just don't feel like there's been a lot of hammering away at the blue towel that was found in that front seat, because again, the caretaker said I would never leave the hose in the mess that it was left at the murder scene. There would never be water all over the floor, all over the area of the kennels. And now there's this blue towel in the front of Alec Murdaugh's, SUV. But again, I haven't heard that hammered away at in court. Did I miss that day?
Yeah, actually, I mean, that's a really fair question. I mean, the prosecution introduced just an absolute mountain of DNA evidence, blood evidence, gunshot primer residue evidence. And I think a question a lot of us who have been covering the trial have been asking ourselves was, were the jury following along with that? Now, I also didn't hear anything about a blue towel. Particular mention was made of the clothes he was wearing, of our blue raincoat that was found at his mother's house. The prosecution is saying he hid there. The defense is saying he didn't. Certainly there was no DNA evidence found on it, even though there was gunshot primer residue found on insider lining. But I did not hear the prosecution specifically bring up a blue towel. Again, I'd be missing it, but I think it's telling that, a lot of, in this huge collection of forensic evidence, there was a lot that certainly felt like could be missed. And I think that was something that, if it was mentioned, it certainly slipped through the cracks.
If you hose yourself off and then you have to get in the car and go Mach Schnell over to your mother's house, you're going to get the seats of your car real wet, and the police would see that. But they didn't see that the seats of the car were wet, but there was a towel. It's all pretty fascinating stuff. Blake Douglas, Ted Clifford, great to have you guys. Thank you so much.